Hello, you're listening to Shoot the Hostage. My name's Sarah, and together with my partner Dan, we are a movie podcast where we talk about 8 different films per season based around a specific theme. Now, if you're hearing my voice, that means it's my choice of theme this season. But before we get stuck in, I do want to mention we get quite spoilery, so please bear that in mind. We don't want to ruin the film for you, so if you haven't seen it, maybe go away and then come back. If you like what you hear and you would like to help us out, there are a number of ways you can do that. The absolute easiest one is to just recommend us to a friend. If you want to go the extra mile, a 5-star review on Spotify would be hugely appreciated. A review on your podcast player of choice would also be hugely helpful. And if you really, really want to help us, we've got a Patreon, which is £3 a month, and you get access to a ton of extra content in the form of reviews of new cinema releases, new streaming releases. You get to see the lineup of the season ahead of time, and we do a wrap show at the end of every season. But all of that aside, I just want to say thank you for listening, and let's get stuck in.
Yorgos Lanthimos.
Yes.
If you're Greek, you would say Yorgo.
Would you?
Correct?
I genuinely don't know. I wasn't going to attempt to pronounce anybody's names.
Including Yorgos Lanthimos.
Well,
you're gonna...
that one I'm fairly confident about.
Yeah.
But nobody else is.
Okay, fair enough. Yorgos Lanthimos, our first Yorgos Lanthimos movie.
Yes.
That we are covering.
Mm-hmm. Or as I like to call him, Darkest Timeline Wes Anderson.
He's the Wes Anderson that we deserve.
Yeah.
He's my Wes Anderson.
Yeah.
Like, spoilers, I guess, straight out the gate. I really like his movies.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's pretty fucking great. He's proper, like, my sense of humour, my kind of sensibilities, really dark, doesn't treat his audience like idiots. Whereas Wes Anderson is like, oh, he's got a pastel shirt on.
Well, so they're both guilty of kind of being like, I am so fucking quirky.
Yeah.
I'm unbearably quirky. Can you tell how quirky I am? But I think Yorgos wears it better.
Agreed. I just think it's a matter of taste.
Of course,
Loads of people love Wes Anderson movies,
Yeah.
and there's so much craft and talent there. Not going to disagree with that. 100%. They're just not my flavour.
Yeah.
At all. Couldn't stand Asteroid City. Jog on. But let's turn into a takedown of Wes Anderson. Let's not alienate our Wes Anderson fans, maybe. But that's a really good comparison. I really like that. I think that's probably the closest other filmmaker that you could compare Yorgos to.
Yeah.
For sure. And this is, so we're talking about Dogtooth.
We are.
When you programmed this season, it's a complete accident that a Yorgos Lanthimos movie happens to be coming out next week. If you're listening to this in June, the trailers are now out for that movie, Kinds of Kindness.
Yeah.
And I'm very excited to watch that.
Me too.
There is a fast car doing some slides in the car park, plus Emma Stone, plus Jesse Plemons, and Yorgos Lanthimos. And I'm like, this movie seems like it was kind of made for me already. So I hope it's good. I'm
sure it will be. Plus it's kind of an anthology, isn't it? There's different stories.
So. Yeah.
So even if you don't like one of them, there'll be something there for you to enjoy, right?
Yeah, which usually I'm kind of against.
Yeah, you're not an anthology guy.
I don't enjoy anthology movies. I kind of feel like, I could just watch 5 short films. Like, what am I doing? But in this case, because it's one filmmaker, I'm kind of on board with it. I'm fine with it. Let's see what happens. But yeah, usually I'm against them because often it's different filmmakers and things aren't sort of connected outside of a really lazy wraparound a la VHS. Then I find them pretty...
You've got beef with the VHS movies, don't you?
I can't stand them. I think they are bad. With a couple of exceptional exceptions, I think almost every single short story in those are fucking bad.
Wow. I think the first 2 are actually pretty great.
There's 3 that I like, I think, out of the 15 or whatever short stories there are in those movies now.
Way more than that at this point.
Well,
it's 6 movies. But yeah, this is more of a trick-or-treat scenario where it's one director doing all the stories. So at least there'll be some sort of visual and storytelling consistency this time around. We hope.
We hope. So this one, Dogtooth, is was his second or third movie, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think this was the last one that he made in Greek,
Okay.
maybe. This was before he started making English language movies.
So Dogtooth 2009,
Mhm.
and then we're moving into English language movies with a long-running partnership with Colin Farrell.
Yeah, it was The
Lobster
Lobster.
in 2011, wasn't it?
Mm.
Which I didn't realise that movie was that old. Because
Yeah.
I'm a latecomer to Yorgos Lanthimos.
Mhm.
I don't think... Had I seen any of his films before we met?
Yeah, The Favourite.
I'd seen The Favourite. That's the
And I
only
hadn't.
one. Correct, yeah. I saw that when it came out and really liked it. But I didn't realise all of the stuff that I liked in that movie was kind of dialed up to 11 in his previous works.
Yeah.
So when you showed me The Killing of a Sacred Deer, which I think is my favourite
Yeah.
Yorgos movie, I just was like, this is the best thing I've ever seen.
This is my guy.
This is funny, it's dark, it's edgy, like I just loved it. It was proper me. And Lobster, I also really liked that.
Yeah. I would say not to take it back to Wes Anderson again, but I think unlike him, he just everything about his movies is so unique. I've never seen these stories before.
Yeah.
Although that is something we're going to come back to in Dogtooth. I do have notes about that.
Okay.
Potential, but unfounded, possibly plagiarism.
Okay.
We'll get to that later down the road. What did you know about Dogtooth going in, other than
Nothing.
it was directed by him?
Nothing.
Absolutely nothing.
Nothing.
Not even a premise.
No. Nothing.
Wow.
I knew that you had the Blu-ray. And it was one of those thin case ones.
Oh, the annoying thin ones.
Annoying.
Yeah.
I don't mind the annoying thin ones if they're all annoying and thin.
Yeah.
But when some of them are thick and some of them are thin, it's the inconsistency that I don't enjoy. I like a thick one or I like a thin one. I can't have it both ways.
You know somebody's going to clip that soundbite.
Good. We'll get some free publicity. Yeah, I knew nothing. And because it's been in your watch pile for quite a while.
Months, yeah.
I knew we'd get to it eventually.
Mm-hmm.
Don't need to look anything up about it. All I need to know, it's a Yorgos movie. That's fine. So yeah, nothing. So everything that happened in this movie, I was like, oh, okay. I should expect the unexpected with his movies.
Oh, yeah.
And I do. But even then, watching this, I was like, wow, okay.
That's what made me laugh when, obviously, Poor Things is his probably most widely seen movie to date, because that sort of went insane at the end of last year, beginning of this year.
Mm.
And there was so much controversy online, mostly from the younger crowds, who are bizarrely puritanical, a lot of them anyway. And they were so shocked at the content, and I'm just like, oh, mate, you had no idea what you were walking into, did you?
Yeah.
Jesus.
What did you think this movie was going to be? Like, it's probably, is it that his most accessible movie?
Yeah, I think it must be.
Or is it the favourite?
Well, they both got a lot of Oscar nominations / wins, didn't they?
Yeah.
I mean, even Dogtooth got a nomination.
Yeah.
I can't. Do you know what? My memory's failing me. I can't actually remember if it won, but it was nominated for Best Foreign Film at the Oscars that year.
Okay.
I want to say it did win.
Yeah, fuck it. Let's just say it did.
Okay.
And if it didn't, then we're wrong.
Yeah.
Who cares?
We're often wrong. It's fine.
Who gives a fuck?
We're infallible.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. No. Is that right? Or is it when... I'm getting it wrong.
Does that mean that
I'm just proving my point.
Yeah. Yeah, you are.
So, as a first-time watcher, how would you synopsize this film?
When the other day when you said you got some talking points and I said, oh, is there anything that I need to think about ahead of time? You said, no, this would have been one of those things. Now you want me to write a synopsis.
On the fly.
On the fly.
Yeah.
I don't, honestly. Because I went into it knowing nothing, that is definitely the best way to view this. But I guess, no, I've got nothing.
Okay.
I've got nothing.
I would say somewhat wealthy Greek family, or Greek father, should I say, has 3 children and a wife, none of whom leave the house or the property. They are consistently lied to by the parents. They're fed incorrect meanings of words. Their reality's been skewed completely, and they're told that they can't leave unless by car, and only the father can leave. But they're all sort of, young adults at this point, still very infantilized, still very childlike, and we just sort of get to see a portion of their life. Yeah?
Yep. I mean, that's pretty much what this movie is about.
So it wasn't that difficult.
Well, no, well done. You did it. Congratulations. Let's end this here.
Can I have a cookie?
I mean, can we do it after? Because I'll have to cut out the noise of you eating the cookie.
All right then. God, I suppose. So this is not only the second movie that deals with a weird family dynamic this season. It's also the second movie that deals with incest.
A theme which will reappear before the season is finished.
I know, and you're starting to give me a complex about it. I didn't even think of those elements when I did the lineup for this season, but I'm starting to wonder if I've got a problem.
I did point that out to you, didn't I?
Yeah.
I said, do you realise that 3 of your movies features incest?
Yeah. And some of the comparisons that I was trying to come up with in my notes for this film, one of them also contains incest.
It's interesting because this is a hard one to draw comparisons on. But the biggest one is a movie, like you say, that we've already covered, Bad Boy Bubby. That's the closest thing that I can think of to this movie.
It's funny, until we started watching this, I hadn't even considered how much the two kind of have in common, with the exception that I feel like Bad Boy Bubby is probably more uplifting.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Has a bit more of an optimistic point of view, perhaps.
But not as funny.
No. It's close, though.
Yeah. Oh, it has its moments, don't get me wrong, but like, there are points in this movie where I'm howling, which is weird to say about a movie about incest.
It is often described as a horror comedy, so I don't think you're too far off. Like,
no,
it is intentionally funny.
All of his movies are comedies, in my opinion. All of them are laugh out loud funny. All of them are. They're all funnier than American Pie: The Wedding, which apparently is a comedy. So, you know.
I can't say I've ever seen that one. I'll have to take your word for it.
No, neither have I, but I'm just assuming.
It's funny because until we started talking about, again, when Poor Things came out and we kind of got up to speed with a bunch more of his movies, I don't necessarily know that I would have called them out and out comedies, but they are often described as such, and you definitely feel like they are.
Yeah, they destroy me, I think.
I swear, like, particularly Killing of a Sacred Deer. So many people are disturbed, like genuinely disturbed by the content of that movie. So to view them as comedy is interesting to me.
They are definitely their own thing. There's no one else making movies quite like it. And I like it because the stuff that is funny is always like a weird central setup or premise in his films that sometimes are horror or kind of sci-fi based, but not really. They don't really lean into that too much. It's just a conceit to get you into this world. But they're all tragic. They're all hilarious, and it's definitely that kind of laughing at real world, not laughing at, but the ridiculousness of humans, and just taking a slice of humanity, analysing it, and going, aren't we fucking stupid? Well, I like the absurdity of it, but these things. Sometimes these things do happen in real life, and that is why people feel uncomfortable watching his movies sometimes, because you laugh at the things that happen and you think, I don't know if I'm supposed to be laughing at a movie about incest. It's really like disturbingly real thing that does happen sometimes.
Yeah, I can't count on both hands the number of times Barry Keoghan has shown up and told me that I have to kill one of my children at random. So common, universal.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the tragedy thing. I think it's the realistic, tragic nature of life, with the realistic, tragic, but also funny nature of life, the absurdity of life, like the crazy things that happen that you just think, what is this about?
And also like the uncomfortable nature of all this shit that happens as well. Like there's a good reason so many people laugh at funerals. Like that awkwardness, the uncomfortable nature of things like that.
My sister and I, at my nan's funeral,
oh God, what are you going to tell me?
Howled with laughter.
Did you?
When Enya came on. Sail Away.
Oh no.
Like, okay, we didn't howl with laughter because you can't howl with laughter, but we looked at each other and on the inside we were howling with laughter. and like, but it's because it was fucking upsetting.
Yeah.
It's tragic. And how do humans deal with tragedy? We laugh. We have to laugh because it's absurd and crazy. But that's very human to me. That's
Yeah.
natural.
And laughing and crying are sort of opposite ends of the same kind of emotional spectrum. So obviously that's why people always say like, oh, if you don't laugh, you're going to cry, or, you know, I'm paraphrasing. I can't remember what the exact saying is, but it's one or the other, you know.
Yes, that's exactly right. They're so intertwined, and it's a coping mechanism for humans to deal with life, and it's perfectly natural, and there's nothing wrong with it. But I can understand when people are laughing at these kind of movies and wondering if they should be laughing.
Yeah.
I also think that's a good thing, because you know you should be questioning.
Am I a bad person?
Yeah, ultimately, like, I don't think that laughing at these movies makes you a bad person, but you should probably try and understand why you're laughing.
Question it a little bit.
Yeah, question everything. Like, you know, we all are striving to, not all of us, but, you know, some of us are striving to be better people. So analyze your behaviors for sure. But yeah, I like his movies because you laugh, I laugh, and you think, should I be laughing at this? But that's very much intentional. That's very much the reason that he makes the decisions that he's making.
Do you think?
In movies, yeah.
Is that something he said, or?
I believe so. I believe, like, he's quite cagey about his content. Like, he's very open to interpretation. He is happy for somebody else to have their own ideas on what the movie is. Yeah. He's sort of like, once I release it, it belongs to the audience, and I fucking love that.
How very David Lynch of him.
Yeah. I mean, he's a bit better than Lynch.
Well,
Lynch is just
a ton of people would disagree with that, but in the same vein as, he refuses to give people any sort of concrete answers about what his films are, quote unquote, about.
Yeah. He's happy for you to have your own ideas about what the movie is about, but he does play everything for laughs, and he's definitely interested in making the audience laugh, but question why they're laughing, and figure out if they should be laughing.
Well, it seems like, obviously going back to what you said about him sort of taking real world happenings that are truly absurd and examining them kind of through a microscope and finding out exactly how bizarre these things are once picked apart. Basically, the idea for this came about because two of his friends were getting married. And obviously the expectation there is when you get married, you settle down, you start a family. And he sort of started unpacking that about how bizarre the expectation for a traditional family is and how antiquated a lot of it is, and what lengths somebody might go to preserve the family unit. Yeah. Which is where this idea came from.
Okay. I was wondering where the idea came from. Yeah. I have heard I listened to his interview with Mark Maron.
How was that? Because Maron's usually really good at getting good stuff out of people.
Yeah, I mean, they had a good chat about his background and stuff, and they spoke a lot about the films, but when Maron had an opinion, Yorgos just kind of went, yeah.
Yeah, so right. He was still pretty cagey.
Yeah.
Okay.
But what Maron was saying was kind of like, yeah, that's pretty well thought out, but he was overthinking it and going, I just don't understand it. Is it this? And he went, yeah. That works.
If that's what you want.
Yeah, precisely. And at the end, Mark Maron just went, what are you hiding? why won't you tell me anything? It was a really good interview. But he did talk a little bit about his past and his upbringing as well. And when you mentioned about his inspiration for Dogtooth, it made me think about his upbringing and his past, because he was brought up by his mother. Mm-hmm. His parents separated, and his mother died when he was 17.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Dad didn't really have much to do with him. Dad was a famous basketball player randomly. And I get the impression that he had a very hands-off upbringing, parental-wise, and had to sort of make his own mistakes and kind of find his own way in the world. So I wonder if the polar opposite of that, you know, maybe he was thinking, because he seems quite happy about, he's not like, oh, fucking parents, you know, screwed me up. But he's like, no, you know, it is what it is. I am where I am, and things happen.
Whenever I've heard him speak, he does sound a little bit monotone sometimes, but never kind of bitter or unhappy in any way.
No. But I think maybe he's thinking was, well, what if the opposite were true? What if my parents were so just protective and just trying to keep me inside and protect me and
the ultimate helicopter parenting.
Yeah, exactly. But that's that was my ideas of maybe how this the idea for this film came about. But
It wouldn't surprise me.
Bit of both, probably. Definitely inspiration from childhood, I would say.
Yeah, I didn't know that about him. That's that sort of gives this an extra layer. Now that I know that,
I think as well, because he suffered from tragedy at a young age, relatively young age as well, that does do something to you. It does make you view the world in a slightly different way, in my experience. It makes you take things less seriously.
Does it?
In my opinion, yes.
Because you're sort of keenly aware of how short life is, or...
Yeah, there's that. There's the element of it's probably all just some kind of cosmic joke anyway, so let's just enjoy ourselves. And, what the fuck, what do words matter anyway? Let's just have a good time,
Well, so I'm going to jump off on that point, actually, because words do matter. And I think that's something that's explored really well in this. Something that I've been thinking about the past few days since we watched this is just how important linguistics are to shaping your reality and your understanding of the world. And obviously we've got the super on the nose stuff in this movie where the kids are kind of made to listen to cassette tapes that the parents have made, where they've just invented random meanings of words. Like the son asks the mum what a zombie is, and she says, "Oh, they're small yellow flowers." And it's so bizarre, and you find yourself asking, but why?
Yeah.
Why are you lying to them? And the only thing I could come up with is sort of power and control.
But like lies about things that you think wouldn't matter. Why don't you just tell them what a zombie is?
That's it. It seems so innocuous.
But they're not. They're lying about everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird. I don't think there's any answers really. But I did question that as well. Why are we going to such lengths to make up a definition of the word zombie when we could just say what a zombie actually is? Isn't that more effort? So there must be an intention behind it. Are you trying to protect them from something that is, if you're going back to the days where people thought that horror films were the reasons that people died or whatever,
some people still feel like that.
Yeah, like horror films are bad and all that stuff. Is there an element of that? I don't want to think about zombies because they're protecting them. I don't know.
They just don't seem to want any outside influence at all. Because obviously, as the story progresses, the one person who is an outside influence kind of poisons the well, so to speak, doesn't she?
The security guard.
Yeah.
And she works at the factory that the father works at.
Yeah.
But yeah, he pays her to have sex with his son.
Mm-hmm. Super odd.
Yeah.
And that happens like 5-10 minutes into the film.
Why do you think that he does that?
Well, there's that scene where the parents have sex as well, and they're listening to their cassette tapes, and then they both get naked, and he sort of climbs on top of his wife, and it's so perfunctory and unsexy and unromantic, and it just feels like, again, they're sort of subscribed to this societal ideal. It's like, we're married, we must consummate this marriage over and over again, whether we fucking want to or not. It's like so perfunctory and performative. Like their heart is not in it. But it feels like, we're man and wife. This is what man and wife does. So I wonder if it's like an extension of that. Like the boy is sort of sexual maturity. He should be having sex with somebody. It's natural.
Okay.
Not that anything about this movie is natural.
No.
That was my read on it anyway.
I wondered if it was a way to keep control, because maybe they were worried about the boy becoming frustrated, or I don't know, just going a bit nuts, I guess. So that was a way to keep him,
to satisfy his natural urges.
Yeah, that's the best way to put it, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then the security guard is the person that comes in and screws everything up for the family.
Yeah.
Because she's this outside influence, like you say. She's a bit annoyed that she's not getting any pleasure out of this situation, so she looks to the
older daughter.
The daughter.
Yeah.
For sexual gratification, which is another layer of uncomfortable.
Well, especially because the kids are so shielded. Like, does the older daughter even view what she's doing as sexual? It doesn't seem to be that she knows what the hell she's doing.
No, they're children, which is what makes it even more odd.
Well, mentally they're children, yeah.
Yeah, of course. But yeah, it's just this weird, like, trade a headband for some
cunnilingus.
Yeah.
it's an odd arrangement, and the father's obviously paying her on the side as well. So going back to the importance of language and how it shapes what we understand of the world, they also don't have names. Do you think a name is important to an identity?
No,
You don't?
I don't believe so. Do you think so?
I think it can be, yeah. Well, there's the whole argument for like nominative determinism, and if you name your child a certain thing, it might affect who they become, what their job prospects are.
I mean, if you call someone Nutbuster, then yeah.
Well, yeah.
But if you call someone Trevor, then I don't...
They're going to be a newsreader, obviously.
Yeah. I don't know, that's weird to me, because to me it's just a functional word that is purely just designed to... so someone can get your attention. Oh, Dan, yeah, what?
But there's so much
It's not
judgment.
my identity.
There's so much judgment attached to a name as well.
Is there?
Yeah. People are denied jobs. People are denied even interviews for jobs if their name is sort of... I don't know how to describe it.
Are we talking about racism more now?
Well, that can play a part, of course.
Yeah.
Of course. Yeah. But in all cultures, I think that can play a part. Like, my parents were so set on me having a Bible name because it's, you know, ancient and honourable and yada, yada, yada. It hasn't necessarily affected who I am as a person, but maybe it would have if they'd called me something else. I don't know. Maybe people would have treated me differently. Maybe I would have been denied opportunities if I'd had a different name. I think it can be really important.
I guess so. For me, it's not. For me, it's. I don't care what anyone's name is. It doesn't matter what anyone's name is. I don't care that my name's Dan.
But you don't like being called Daniel.
I don't like being called Daniel because I don't like the way that it sounds.
So it is somewhat important to you.
Yes, but not from an identity perspective.
Okay.
It's just I feel like the end bit, the
Eel.
is kind of odd sounding, and I don't like it.
Okay. Do you also not like the name Muriel?
Not really, no.
Okay, good to know.
Mm.
But yeah, I do find that sort of another attempt to control them, to rob them of a secure identity.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely applies in this
Yeah.
film. Like you say, they don't have names. They are very controlling over their personality and want them to have an identity shaped by themselves, the parents.
I mean,
so yeah, it does make sense in this one.
Do they even have a personality, really?
What, the kids?
Anyone?
Yeah, I think.
Does anyone in any Yorgos Lanthimos movie have much of a personality?
No, that's fair.
And I think when they, again, I'm skipping too far ahead, but again, in the sort of third act of the film, when the older daughter sees the movies on the VHS tape and starts mimicking them and kind of developing more of a personality, whether it's learned or organic or whatever, that's when the cat is among the pigeons, so to speak. They feel like they're losing control at that point. So I guess just anything. They're so scared of ascribing anything to them that would make them their own people and therefore disobedient. No?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Because you were just looking at me as though you'd forgotten this was a medium in which we have to talk.
I'm also a little bit confused by this movie. It's funny to me, and that's my main takeaway of this, is it's funny. I don't think there's necessarily a concrete meaning or interpretation of this movie that works, and I like that for it. I've been trying to think about it a lot over the last few days, and I had a few kind of sentences, not even half-baked ideas about what this movie was about. So I think I'm trying to, in a roundabout way, trying to say I'm struggling a little bit to form any opinion on this film outside of it made me laugh a lot. Okay.
Can I offer something that may give meaning to it?
Please.
Now, I haven't found any instances where Yorgos has talked about this specifically, but there are a number of articles and think pieces online that reference Plato's The Allegory of the Cave. Is that something you're familiar with? Because I wasn't.
The Plato of the Cave?
The Allegory of the Cave.
Plato's Allegory of the Cave?
Yes.
What do you think that he would have turned out differently if he was not called Plato? Do you think?
If he was called Derek,
yeah,
he might not have been such a deep thinker.
I get, 100%.
No,
is this the one with the shadows?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm kind of familiar with it, yeah.
Okay, so like a dumbed down version basically is that the story is there's a number of people in a cave, they're facing one way, their reality is shaped by shadows that they see on the wall without realizing that the world behind them is much wider and there's so much more to it. So I think that sort of definitely comes into play here. I found a couple of snippets online that kind of explain it a bit better than I can. One says, just from Cora, somebody's asked a question. And somebody's answered, the allegory of the cave relates to today the same as it did 100 years ago. This will never change. Man fights, fears, hates, and even loves that which he perceives as or in the world, instead of realizing that the world is reflecting back to him his own belief in duality. And another is the cave analogy of Plato, among other things, warns us that there is more to reality than what the senses can grasp. Human beings can abstract concepts from what they grasp by the senses. Thus, Plato has reality displayed in a distorted manner, while the actual fullness of reality is behind them. I mean, this movie basically is the allegory of the cave, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess so. God, this is way too intellectual for a Sunday afternoon.
Having just woken up.
Yeah, is it? So, in a sense, that the parents are shaping the reality of the children.
Yeah. All they know is that house.
And that they have no idea that there is an outside world with lots of other things going on.
Yeah, I mean,
whereas,
so their reality is this one house. They think they have a brother who lives on the other side of the fence, which they throw food to and talk to, but never talks back. Because, spoiler alert, he's not there. They believe that planes are tiny, and their parents fool them by buying toys and say, oh, the plane's landed in the garden. Quick, go and get it.
Yeah, I enjoyed that.
They are told that they can't leave the house until their dog teeth, or their canine teeth rather, fall out. It has to be the right one or the left one or both before they're allowed to leave. And because they're in an environment where that's unlikely to happen. So I guess that's a way of making sure they never leave, right?
I think everything that they do is designed to make them not leave, yeah.
Yeah, so their reality is literally being moulded by their parents and what they allow them to see. The only things they're allowed to watch on TV are their own home movies, which they know all the words to and kind of repeat them as they're watching them. It's such a weird, tiny microcosm of a life, which I think really reflects the allegory of the cave.
Yeah. All I can think of is even when they get out, even if they were told the truth about all of the world, we still only have our own senses to understand our reality anyway. So that can't be objective truth anyway. No matter what fucking theories scientists come up with, it's all through the eyes of a human being.
Well, yeah, that's why it's an allegory and not like fact, you know, it's not literal rather. But I don't know, I just found that really interesting. And it kind of got me thinking, like, their reality is sort of more in line with how things would have been 100 years ago, for example. They didn't have TVs and they didn't have access to as many books or, you know, literature to expand their worldview.
But no, certainly like going back further, like medieval times, before people could even write, or whenever that was. I don't know, I'm not great in history. But before it was common for people to be able to understand, to read and write, your entire reality is shaped by the stories that you're told, your parents, your government, kings, monarchy, or whatever it was. And then anything outside of that is alien and unknown.
But it's in terms of how relevant that allegory still is. I think you could start talking about things like I don't know, Cambridge Analytica, for example, and targeted ads these days. Like, we're not. It would be easy to sort of say that we're spoiled in the modern world by realizing that we have access to everything. All information at all times is at the touch of a button. So we can expand our own worldview by looking for things online or watching movies or reading books. And in some respects, we're spoiled, but in others, the people in power are kind of still controlling our worldview. Because in terms of things like targeted ads, not everybody's seeing the same thing. So even like social media is kind of the shadows on the cave, if that makes sense. You're being shown what people want you to see.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just, honestly, it got me thinking for the last 3-4 days. I've been going down this rabbit hole, questioning everything. Why are we here? What's going on? The first sex scene that we see, the again, one of the least sexy sex scenes that I've ever seen on film. The grossest part, however, is the fact that she keeps her socks on throughout.
Agreed. Yeah, that's
Awful.
the thought that I had also. All of the sex scenes in this film were just uncomfortable and gross to watch.
Brutally uncomfortable.
I was so uncomfortable. I couldn't look at the screen for some of it. The horrible Foley work with the mouth noises was disgusting.
God. Yeah.
And it was all very mechanical as well. It was very uncomfortable to watch. By design, of course.
Yeah. How do you feel about how the kids went about filling their days?
So they played games.
Yeah.
That's how the film opens, isn't it? With them
endurance
playing a game.
tests, and they're talking about holding their fingers under hot water, and whoever can withstand it the longest wins.
Yeah.
We don't know what they win. It all just seems pointless, but that's how else do you pass your time?
They didn't even have Minecraft or Fortnite.
No, none of it. God.
Yeah, they had a pool though. They had a nice place.
Yeah, but I mean, even swimming would get old after a while.
Who does the gardening?
That's a really good question. I'm not sure. We don't see a landscaper once.
There can't be a landscaper.
No.
Because he would have to put a blindfold on them.
And then the garden would look like shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think my personal favourite thing that they do to pass the time is chloroform themselves.
Yeah.
Which looks, honestly, like chloroform gets a bad rap. But it doesn't look that bad. That might be a drug I can get on board with.
Yeah, just go straight to sleep.
Yeah, you just get a nice kip.
Wonder if you get like a headache or something afterwards, though. I don't think you can probably go into the pharmacist and ask them if they have any chloroform for sleeping. They'll just say, no, have some Nitols instead.
Well, yeah, the woman at the pharmacy around the corner gave me hell just for asking for Nitol.
Yeah.
They definitely wouldn't hand over chloroform.
What's the intended use for this chloroform?
Just snoozy times.
Yeah. You definitely get an investigation opened.
Yeah, I don't know. It seems like something I could get on board with, though. I'm not into party drugs. I like snoozy drugs. So I want to talk about the craft of the film itself and all of the weird framing.
Okay.
What did you take from that?
Didn't notice anything about framing in this movie, actually.
Not?
No.
Well,
it's not something I was looking out for.
It's super weird because, again, you've already mentioned Bad Boy Bobby as a comparison point. But much like that, there were scenes where, like multiple scenes where you couldn't see people's heads. It was just...
Was there? What, in this movie?
In this movie, yeah. There was dialogue happening, but you could just sort of see from like the chin down or something.
Right.
There's some really odd framing.
Okay.
Which had to, like... Lanthimos is such an intentional filmmaker. There's no way that wasn't for a good reason. Yeah,
I think everything in these movies are... Yeah. As loose as they kind of feel, I think are definitely planned within an inch of their life.
Yeah.
And definitely the framing would be a huge part of that. Not something that I noticed really, but what do you think about that then? What's the reason for not showing somebody's face, and who was it and why was it relevant?
Well, it was multiple people at multiple times.
All right.
Generally the kids, I think, but my only possible idea for the reasoning behind that was kind of further depersonalization, because they were so nondescript. It almost was like, doesn't fucking matter. But I have no idea the reasoning behind that. I couldn't find anything online. What about you? I mean, I guess you don't have thoughts if you didn't notice it.
No, really don't. I really don't. It's funny because last week I was paying so much attention to the framing in something like Possessor.
Yeah.
For me, I don't know, if I notice it and I think about it early on, then I'll be thinking about it for the rest of the movie, but I didn't think about it at all here. So it's not like I even have any reference points for me to remember any of how it was framed.
Yeah. Have you seen... Sorry to interrupt you.
That's okay.
Go on. Have you seen the original Funny Games?
Yeah.
Have you?
I've seen both.
Oh dear.
The remake was exactly the same film.
Quite, hence my oh dear.
Intentionally. And I kind of love it for that.
Well, you tell a very different story about Gus Van Sant's Psycho.
Yeah, I guess so, but I haven't seen either of those movies. Haven't seen OG Psycho or remake Psycho.
Holy shit, we're going to have to rectify that. The first one, anyway.
I feel like that's definitely one of those movies that I should watch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. Such a cultural like touchstone.
Yeah, of course.
But yeah, it's this movie's often compared to things like Funny Games, and I'm not very familiar with Haneke's other work,
Yeah.
but like the kind of mean-spirited, like clinical nature of it, I could definitely see. And I mean, there's a bunch of other directors that get name dropped in the same sentence as stuff like this, but I don't want to dwell on that too much because they're not necessarily filmmakers I have a great deal of knowledge about. But some direct comparisons I did come up with.
Joss Whedon.
Definitely not Joss Whedon.
We don't talk about Joss Whedon anymore, do we?
No, he's a creep.
Yeah, dickhead.
Yeah. The Cement Garden, which I don't think you've ever seen.
No, never heard of it.
No. You'd recognise some of the dialogue because you're a Madonna fan, aren't you? You like some old school Madge.
I enjoy some old Madge, from back in the day.
One of her songs, I can't remember which album it was on. It was a later album, but they took a snippet from the Cement Garden. Charlotte Gainsbourg kind of doing the clipped, very posh, like, you don't know what it means to be a girl or whatever. It's from that movie, and it's based on an early Ian McEwan novel, I believe, which I've also read. Very incesty.
Right.
Would also fit in our current season because technically
season.
Trapped.
Right.
Yeah. Should we just rename it at this point?
No, we might get banned in several countries.
Incest and other weird sex.
There'll be certain pockets where the season does really well.
Yeah.
I imagine. But
we're not here to judge.
No.
But yeah, that has very much a similar feel, like a really sort of, I don't know, it's a grayer version of Dogtooth and not quite as bizarre, believe it or not. And the other thing, which might sound like a stretch, but the other thing that came to mind was The Village.
The M. Night Shyamalan movie.
Yeah, just in the sense that it's a bunch of elders who create a false reality for the next generation.
Yeah, I can totally understand that. They completely fabricate the entire existence of that community. And
control them and keep them where they are through fear.
Yeah, through fear and misinformation.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a really good comparison. I like that.
On the face of it sounds strange, but there are more commonalities than you would think.
Yeah, make a good double bill.
Would they?
Yeah, I think so. Except I've only seen The Village once. I don't remember anything about it. Yeah, that is enough. I would rewatch Dogtooth every day and have a giant smile on my face while I'm watching it. So
you said this movie made you laugh a ton. What are some of your favourite funny moments?
I just like the absurdity of all of his movies. A lot of it's the delivery. A lot of it is just the uncomfortable nature of laughing at something that you're not sure you should be laughing at.
Mm-hmm.
But more than anything else is the way that he sits with something for longer than you should. Something very simple in the movie where the boy was just drinking some orange juice.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was even meant to be played for laughs, but he downed a glass of orange juice and put his glass down and it got refilled and he downed it again. And that killed me. And it feels like because it was not relevant to anything.
Yeah.
But was for some reason he just held it long enough for me to sort of question it and go, is this a joke? Because I think this is funny as shit.
It's weird, isn't it? Just to go back to that thought, when you say you laugh because you wonder whether you should be laughing or not, do you think some of the laughter is because you deep down know you shouldn't be laughing at some of it? It's like there's that taboo thing and that kind of makes it a bit funny.
Yeah, there's definitely a part of that.
Yeah. I think there is for me as well.
Yeah, it's definitely feeds into it somewhat. I think it's a lot to do with the comedy, the way things land. For me, is the editing.
Yeah.
The choice to remain on a shot or cut to something else.
The timing of it.
The timing is brilliant.
Yeah.
It's perfect.
And often misunderstood, because I think a lot of lesser filmmakers feel like the laughs have to come from dialogue.
Yeah. When
actually really subtle action or inaction can be super funny depending on how it's edited.
Yeah, agreed. There's that thing where the super easy comedy thing where you just do a very quick cut. You deliver something and then you cut to something else. Yeah. It's either the opposite of what the joke was or it's kind of reinforcing what the joke was. You can sort of do it either way, and all of the best comedies do it. But yeah, the cutting is definitely something that's very important for comedy.
Yeah.
And I think that's the way that I can tell this is a comedy more than anything else, is the way that it's edited. Also, like the crazy shit that they do with the expressive dance.
Oh, God.
And the Jaws thing in Nepal,
Bruce.
which was very funny. Bruce, yeah.
Bruce.
That's right, because Jaws was one of the movies that they what was it? Jaws, it was...
Rocky 4.
Was it Rocky 4?
Yeah, and Flashdance.
And Flashdance, yeah.
Which is why she sort of segues into the Flashdance dance right at the end.
The Flashdance dance, yeah.
The Jennifer Beals dance, yeah. But yeah, the Jaws thing is the first time they're introduced to the concept of a name. And she's like, I want you to call me Bruce, and whenever you say Bruce, I'll respond.
Right.
Because that's alien to them.
That's what that scene was about.
Yeah.
Okay, right, now I'm remembering now, because she kept moving to different parts of the room and she'd go, Bruce, and she'd turn around and look whenever she did Bruce. And it was funny, but I did not understand what was going on. I must have zoned out for a minute or something. Is that why he puts fish in the pool? Because they understand what a shark is? Or...
I think so, yeah. It's again just a control through fear.
And they're like, oh yeah, the fish grow in the pool, or they appear in the pool somehow, and they understand how. And they're now worried that a shark might appear in the pool.
I think...
hang on. Did they ever refer to the shark as Bruce in the movie Jaws? Because I thought that was the working name for the prop, not the shark.
Oh.
So were there some DVD extras on these VHSs?
I think you've answered your own question there.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Never called
Have
Bruce...
we just found a plot hole?
Yeah. Never called Bruce in the movie, is it?
Should be.
It should be, yeah.
It does look like a Bruce.
It would make it funny, but I'm not sure that comedy is what Spielberg was going for in that movie.
Oh, interesting.
That killer shark. Bruce.
Bruce. I think my favourite funny moment is when the mom decides to leverage a fake pregnancy as a threat.
Yeah, because they're having a conversation, aren't they? And she sits down and says, oh, I think I'm pregnant.
Yeah.
No, I think actually it's triplets.
Yeah.
He goes, no, I think you're taking it too far now.
And a dog.
Twins.
Doesn't she say and a dog as well?
Yes, twins and a dog, isn't it?
She's like, well, if you keep acting this way, I'll just give birth.
Yeah.
What a weird threat. I loved that.
And at that point, I was thinking, are you actually pregnant? Are you telling him that you're pregnant? And then when they cut to the kind of the family meeting, it was obvious, yeah, okay, that's a way to kind of control them even more. The kids are going to have to share rooms with you if you're really good. We just won't have the kids, don't worry. But we're definitely going to have the dog.
Yeah.
There's a lot of, I was going to say that there's a lot of dogs in Yorgos movies. Wasn't Colin Farrell's brother a dog in The Lobster?
Yeah.
Right.
Which, with no prior knowledge, is the weirdest sentence.
Yeah.
But one of my other favourite moments from this film does feature the dog who's like at the obedience school.
Yeah.
And they said he can't have him back because he's not at level 4 yet or whatever. He's not done. And then again, you were talking about the thing with the orange juice and the timing and the labouring of a certain scene just a little bit too longer than is comfortable. And he's just stood there trying to get the dog's attention going, Rex. Like for what feels like 10 minutes.
Yeah. And that just
gets funny.
It gets funnier.
Yeah.
And it's that Stuart Lee thing, isn't it? It's that Stuart Lee humour. Eventually it comes back around. It becomes funny again.
Yeah. I mean, we're kind of at the end now. So the elder daughter decides that she's going to do the unthinkable and smash out her own dogtooth.
Yeah, because the rule is you lose a tooth and then you can drive out.
Then you can leave.
You lose a tooth and then you have to wait for your tooth to grow back before you can drive. Presumably because the old man still has his dog tooth and he can drive. So he said, I lost my tooth and then it grew back so I can drive out of here.
I just sort of assumed that because they were so sheltered, they'd never been taken to a dentist and so they still had their baby teeth.
Their baby teeth would still fall out.
Not necessarily. I had to have 6 taken out.
Did you?
Yeah.
I've never heard that before. Everyone I've ever known has their teeth have just naturally fallen out.
Oh, mine didn't.
Tooth grow.
I had to have general anaesthetic. They told me they were whipping 4 out. I woke up and they'd taken 6.
Of your baby teeth?
Yeah.
Bloody hell. I think your parents made it up. I think they made it up as a way to control you.
Am I living in a Yorgos Lanthimos movie?
That didn't happen at all. They just told you that it happened.
No, I remember waking up from the anaesthetic because I kicked my shoe off at a nurse.
That's funny.
Now you believe it happened.
Yeah, that's funny.
That sounds like something I'd do.
And we should cut to the nurse with like a bag of frozen peas on her head very quickly.
Done. But yeah, when she does that, again, comparisons, I couldn't help but think of Titan.
Yeah.
Like the face smashing scene in that, both in bathrooms.
Mm.
Oh, God. So hard to watch.
Mm.
So hard to watch. Is that the only real gore that we see in this movie?
Yeah, I guess so. It's not that type of movie, is it?
No.
There's that one shocking thing with the blood and everything. And there's moments of violence.
Well, there's the cat thing. Again, another thing it's got in common with Bad Boy Bobby is a dead cat.
Yes. I'd forgotten about that.
Because
Yeah.
how could you forget about that? I thought that was your favourite bit.
They're afraid of cats, aren't they?
Well, their dad's convinced them that they're a fearful animal and that they'll tear them limb from limb. And that's why he coats himself in fake blood, tears his clothes and says that the cats killed their fake brother over the wall. And so that he has to teach them all how to bark like dogs to scare the cats away.
Right, yeah. Including the mother as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I question, obviously the mother is involved with the lies that they're telling the kids, but I wonder how much of that is her choice and how much of it is just him trying to control the entire family.
Well, she's definitely in on most of it, but she also doesn't leave, does she?
No, I don't
the
believe
dad's
so.
the only one who leaves.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting.
I gathered from that situation where we saw, because up until that point, she was kind of very much involved with coming up with the lies that they're telling the kids.
Well,
but
it was her voice on the tapes, wasn't it?
Yeah. But then when I saw her barking, that thought did occur to me, like, oh, how much of this is actually your choice? And you've been conditioned into this as well. You know, your reality has also been shaped by this guy. Now, you obviously are aware of the outside world and you've probably been out, but maybe for the last 30 years, this is kind of all you've known as well. And, you know, you're sort of a prisoner also.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And the other notable moment of violence that I can think of is when he beats Christina around the head with a VCR and then says that I hope your children have bad personalities. Which is probably my favourite line in the whole film.
It's my favourite line. I was at an open air cinema the other night watching the Blues Brothers, which was great. So much fun. And then that line popped into my head and I was laughing for the next hour. But yeah, and it's crazy because it comes after such an uncomfortable scene where, like you say, he's assaulting Christina with the VCR.
Yeah.
Hits her around the head with it and then says, I hope your kids have bad influences and develop bad personalities. And it's the funniest thing in the world after seeing this really shocking scene.
Yeah.
And again, another instance of, should I be laughing now?
Probably not.
But then also, you know, he hits his kid around the head with a tape, an actual
VHS that he's had taped to his hand.
Yeah.
And that looked real.
Yeah, it did. I'm sure there was some padding on the tape or something, but it did look pretty real and was very uncomfortable to watch.
It was, yeah. So the cat thing, the cat was real, but it was a blind cat, so it didn't see the actor kind of creeping up on it, but it wasn't hurt, obviously.
Good. Yeah, there was a part in the Maron interview where, because Maron's a cat guy, obviously.
Yeah, of course.
Boomer lives.
Yeah.
he went, they were talking about the cat and Yorgos was going, you know, I do think people are very sensitive about what happens to animals in movies. He says, you know, most movies are about humans being killed, and yet when you see a dog being killed, people are up in arms about it. And I understand what he's saying. And then Mark went, yeah, but you didn't kill a real cat, did you? And he went, no, of course not. Of course I didn't. But he meant like the showing of it, which I totally understand.
Yeah, it's so true. I'm way more affected by animal deaths on screen than I am humans.
Same.
I take that in my stride these days.
Same. Yeah, exactly the same. If I see a dog being hurt, less so a cat, because I don't like cats. No, any animals I don't want to see hurt on screen. But it's funny how this also, like you mentioned, has also got something else in common with Bad Boy Bubby. It's very curious how aligned those two movies are, and they're in the same season.
And it was so unplanned.
Yeah.
They'd make the most depressing double bill. You'd want to kill yourself after watching both of those back to back, surely.
Well, we have nearly watched them both back to back. It was only a couple of episodes ago. It was only 2 episodes ago.
You're welcome.
Yeah. God, this is the weirdest season. I did say to you that if you just glanced through the seasons and you just looked at the movies in each season, I'm pretty sure most people that are aware of the podcast would go, well, that's Dan's season, that's Sarah's season.
Well, they'll probably look at the lineup for this season and go, is she okay?
Yeah, undoubtedly.
And the answer to that is no, I'm not. The last thing I really want to mention, though, is something that I teased at the start of the show, and that is that there have been some comparisons drawn between Dogtooth and a Mexican movie called The Castle of Purity. Apparently, it's not something that Yorgos has ever acknowledged himself. He's never commented on it. But also, apparently, on the night of the Oscars, when Dogtooth was nominated, the director of The Castle of Purity did send him a message saying, I hope we win tonight.
Okay.
Which is the shadiest
Yeah.
message, and I kind of love it, though.
Yeah.
From what I read, it does seem like a very, very similar premise, but the Mexican film was in itself inspired by a real life case from 1959. And I don't get the impression that Yorgos is somebody who would intentionally rip somebody off. I don't know the man, of course. I'm not going to jump to his defense because who knows? But having seen his other films, he's got such a unique voice. I'd be surprised if he'd taken overt inspiration from anyone else.
Yeah, and like you say, the fact that it seems like he was inspired by his mates and maybe shaped a little bit by his childhood, this movie. It's probably just a coincidence.
Yeah, and I mean, I think if the Mexican director had any grievance that would stand up in court, he probably would have taken it that far, right? For such a successful film. I mean, John Carpenter successfully took Luc Besson to court for Lockout.
Yeah. I think everyone should take Luc Besson to court.
Yeah, I know. As if we couldn't love John Carpenter anymore.
Yeah.
Luc Besson's a creep. Horrible man.
But yeah, you're right. If there was more truth to it, probably more would have been made of it. And that text feels like a joke to me. I don't know.
Yeah, but
it's hard to sort of say out of context, but it's
a bit snidey, but not too bad-natured.
Yeah, I'm sure Yorgos would have just laughed at that. I don't know. Who
I
knows?
hope so.
But yeah, there's
Do you
so
think
many.
he ever laughs?
Yeah.
Does he?
I think he pisses himself laughing when he's cutting his movies. Definitely. He's like, they're not going to get this.
And that kind of brings us to the end then. So have you got any final thoughts on Dogtooth?
Not really. I think we've covered everything that I wanted to talk about in this movie. I think he's a pretty great filmmaker. He's definitely becoming one of my favourites.
Yeah.
I did enjoy Poor Things, but not as much as I'd enjoyed his other movies.
I loved Poor Things.
But it was very good.
Yeah.
And very original.
And so funny.
And very funny. And Emma Stone was amazing.
Yeah.
And I really love just the sensibilities in that film. And I think from what you were saying about some people that might have had an issue with it, taste is taste and you're entitled to like and dislike whatever you want. But I feel like some of it might have been lost. The metaphor, the meat, like what we're.
Well, a lot of complaints that I saw were from people who walked out before the film had finished. So,
you can't judge it.
Yeah, to me, if you walk out halfway through, you don't get to have an opinion.
No, you can dislike what you saw.
Yeah.
But you can't go, that's what this movie was about. Because often you get to the end of these movies and things are kind of revealed. And sometimes you're still sort of left scratching your head. But in that film, I feel like it was trying to say quite a lot. And it succeeded. And it was done really well, I thought, in a way that I'd never seen before. And I think the same applies in Dogtooth and all of his movies. Really uncomfortable in places to watch. Above all else, funny.
Yeah.
Comedy. I will rewatch this.
Good. Okay. I wasn't sure.
I will rewatch it, and more than that, it would be nice to rewatch it without having to, think about having to sort of record it and form some kind of opinion on it, which I really struggled with in this episode. You might have noticed, but I'm looking forward to just consuming it as a piece of entertainment. Not thinking about it too much.
Well, there's an added layer of difficulty when we do films that are not in English as well, because you've got to read the subtitles and make notes, and if it's your first time watch, that's nearly impossible to do.
Yeah. Well,
So,
I don't really take notes when we watch films anymore. And the reason I don't do that is because I used to miss a lot of stuff.
and you would over prepare and get in your
Yeah,
own head about it. So
I do.
better
Yeah.
to take in as much as you can and then think
Yeah.
about it after the fact.
Yeah.
So to bring us to the end of the show, I have got a handful of my favourite reviews from Letterboxd.
All right. A
Because-
mixture of positive and negative, hopefully.
Almost all positive, with the
Okay.
exception of one. But something I do love about Yorgos Lanthimos is that his films do invite very funny, dry reviews. So Ian gives it 3.5 stars and says Yorgos going full Lanthimos. Matt, 4.5 stars, says this is what would happen if Stanley Kubrick and Gaspar Noé directed The Village.
Yeah, okay.
So somebody else has
yeah.
drawn that comparison. Cameron gives it 1.5 stars, one of the rare negative reviews, and says Yorgos Lanthimos boldly asks the question, what if the weirdest thing ever happened?
Okay. That could be a review for any
Any
of his movies.
yeah.
I don't know. He's made movies that are way weirder than this one, by the way.
Yeah.
Where there's one where Colin Farrell's brother is a dog.
4 stars. Jay says Yorgos family absolutely did not have live, laugh, love signs in their house. I guess you've kind of corrected us there and steered us in the direction of probably not.
Nope.
James gave it 4 stars and said, I'm convinced Yorgos has kidnapped and murdered at least one person in his life. Ethan gave it no stars, no star rating, but said David Lynch said that this was one of his favourite films in recent memory, and I have never been less surprised by a piece of information in my life.
Yeah.
Do you think they'd be great mates?
Lynch and Yorgos.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yorgos has just got to get into transcendental meditation, and then they'll be best of buds.
That's a collaboration I would hotly anticipate.
Yeah, I'd be more excited for Lanthimos than I would be for Lynch, because his movies just tend to go right over my head. I can't. And more than that, I watched them and go, do you know what? I can't even be bothered to think about this. This is so obscure and so weird, and not. I think the difference for me in Yorgos movies is that they're very funny, whereas Lynch has some comedic moments in his films, but it's more just isn't this weird? Yeah.
Oh, I still love him though. I know he's not the greatest, but well, I hotly anticipate the Yorgos Lanthimos David Lynch collaboration that we all deserve.
Yeah, I mean,
throw in a bit of Panos Cosmatos and I'll be happy.
Yeah, maybe they can do an anthology movie together.
You've put that out into the universe now. We just have to manifest it somehow. So yeah, that's it.
That's it. So we've got 2 episodes left. What's the penultimate episode for next week? What are we covering next week?
You'll be relieved that it is The Breakfast Club.
Okay.
It's going to be a nice, easy breezy 80s teen comedy.
Right.
Completely at odds with most of what we've covered this season.
Yeah. Yorgos Lanthimos to John Hughes, quite a difference there.
Yes. But they're still trapped, albeit in detention.
I would hope so, considering that's what this season is. Yeah, they are trapped in the school.
Yep.
Cool.